This story takes place in Egypt, and it's about a girl we'll call Nihal. That's not her real name, but we're using it to keep her identity private. Now, Nihal had just graduated college. 4 long, exhausting years of non-stop studying, stress, and sleepless nights. But the worst part? After all that effort, after everything she pushed herself through, she still couldn't find a job. Not a single one. She applied everywhere, chased every opportunity, and nothing came through. The rejection started weighing on her, mentally, emotionally, even physically, so at some point she just stopped looking for a career and started looking for anything, literally anything, that could bring in a little cash and give her something to do while she waited for life to figure itself out. And then one random day, as she's scrolling through social media, something catches her eye. It's an ad, a job offer. It said, live-in caregiver needed for 4 days. The pay? Way more than she expected for a 4-day gig. Honestly, it was too good, but Nihal didn't even think twice. She needed the money, desperately. So she called the number listed on the ad. To her surprise, a woman picked up right away and agreed to everything immediately. She told Nihal she could start on whatever day she was free. The job? Simple. There was a young woman about 24 years old, same age as Nihal, who was completely paralyzed, couldn't move a muscle. Nihal's only job would be to stay in the house, make sure the girl got her meals and meds on time, and be there in case anything went wrong. Apparently, this girl was an orphan, and the only person she had left was her older sister. But the sister had to leave the country for a few days and needed someone to stay with her sibling while she was gone. The place? A big villa with a live-in doorman. So from the outside, everything seemed secure. Everything seemed fine. In fact, Nihal was feeling pretty lucky. Easy job, good pay, short term. What's the catch? Well, she was about to find out. The day finally came. Nihal packed her bag and headed over to the villa. But the second she got there, she says she felt off. The first person she met was the doorman, and this guy? He did not give off good vibes. He was a tall, scruffy man with a blank expression, and he had one eye. The other one? Gone. Just an empty, sunken socket. But that wasn't even the worst part. He didn't speak. At all. When Nihal greeted him, he just stared at her, annoyed, and pointed silently toward the house. No words, no smile. Just pure get-lost energy. That first interaction was enough to send a chill down her spine. But she told herself to relax. Maybe the guy was just having a bad day. Inside the villa, things moved fast. The paralyzed girl's sister was already waiting. She was standing by the front door with her purse in hand, clearly in a rush to leave. Nihal thought that was weird. Who hires a total stranger to care for their disabled sister and then rushes out the door the second they arrive? But the woman didn't even hesitate. She shoved a wad of cash into Nihal's hand, handed her a sheet of paper with the girl's meal and medication schedule, then quickly showed her around the house. "This is your room," she said. "That's my sister's room. Someone from the clinic will stop by to change her personal items. Don't worry about that part." And then, just like that, she was gone. Nihal stood there, staring at the front door, clutching the money in one hand and the schedule in the other, thinking, what did I just get myself into? Four hours into her first day on the job, everything was going fine. Nihal stuck to the schedule. She fed the girl, gave her the medication, stayed close, exactly as instructed. But every now and then, she'd glance nervously out the window. Because that doorman, the one-eyed guy, he was still outside pacing, silent, and staring into space like he was waiting for something. Or someone. There was something seriously off about him, and Nihal couldn't shake the feeling that this place, this job, none of it was normal. Then, around 1:30 a.m., while she was sitting alone in the living room, watching TV, she heard something. Bang. Then again. It sounded like someone slamming doors, coming from upstairs, specifically from the room where the paralyzed girl was supposed to be sleeping. At first, Nihal froze, but then she thought, maybe I didn't shut the door all the way. Maybe it's just the wind. So she went up to check, and sure enough, the bedroom door was wide open. But Nihal knew she had shut that door earlier. She was certain. Still, she chalked it up to a weak latch or maybe just bad memory. She stepped inside, planning to gently close it again before the girl woke up. But what she saw next stopped her cold. The girl, the one who was supposed to be completely paralyzed, was standing on her own 2 feet. And she wasn't just standing, she was dressed in a long white gown, standing in front of a mirror, admiring herself. Nihal didn't move, couldn't breathe. What the hell is happening? Then the girl turned around, slowly, and smiled. What do you think? She asked. Does the dress look good on me? Nihal's heart dropped. She couldn't even respond. But the girl stepped closer and asked again, this time more forcefully. Hey Nihal, what do you think? Do I look good? Nihal's stomach twisted. She never told this girl her name. She had never introduced herself. No one had. So how did she know? And that's when things got worse. The girl leaned in and her smile faded. In a low, chilling voice, she said, I hate my sister. I wish she'd die. She's the reason I'm like this. She did this to me. Then she reached behind her and handed Nihal something, a doll. It looked wrong, dirty, twisted, like something you'd find buried in a box at the back of a haunted attic. Nihal hesitated but took it. The girl pointed at the mirror. Look, she whispered, and when Nihal turned to look, she saw something horrifying. It wasn't the paralyzed girl in the reflection. It was an old woman, bent over, wild hair, stuffing human hair into an identical doll. And sitting next to her was the same woman who had hired Nihal, the sister. Nihal just stood there, staring, realizing the hair, it looked real, human, and she watched as the old woman began stitching the doll's mouth shut with thick black thread. Then she tied the doll's legs together, tight. That's when it hit her. This wasn't some random dream. This was a ritual, a curse, a spell. The old woman dipped the doll into a yellowish liquid inside a bucket, then walked away. Nihal blinked, and suddenly she was back downstairs in front of the TV, sitting exactly where she had been before it all started. She had no idea if she had just fallen asleep, had a nightmare, or something else. But everything felt too vivid to be a dream. And yet, when she checked upstairs, the paralyzed girl was still in bed, still motionless. Nothing seemed disturbed. But that wasn't the end, because every night after that, the dream returned. Same exact scenes, same words, same doll, same yellow liquid in the bucket, over and over again. Until one night, something changed. Nihal woke up around 11 p.m. like usual, but this time, she wasn't alone. The paralyzed girl was in her room, standing. She was holding 2 things, one in each hand. In one hand, she held a doll, nearly identical to the one from the dream, and in the other, the bucket, the same disgusting yellowish liquid. The girl looked straight at her and said, I want her to die. My sister, she deserves it. You're the only one who can help me, please. Do what I showed you. Use the doll. Put it in her room. That's all you have to do. Then, just like before, Nihal blinked and woke up alone. This time she was convinced it was just a dream. Again. Everything was back in its place. But the next morning, her final day in that house, she noticed something strange. In the corner of her room, there was a real bucket. Not a dream, not imagined. And next to it, a bag full of human hair and a second doll. That's when Nihal's stomach turned, because this wasn't just a dream anymore. These were signs, clues, warnings. So she did it. She took the doll, opened it up just like she saw in the mirror, and stuffed the hair inside. Then she stitched it closed. She dipped the whole thing into the yellowish liquid inside the bucket, whatever the hell it was, and followed the exact steps she had seen in the dream. Because at that point, she believed it wasn't just a curse, it was a cry for help. So Nihal is in the middle of performing the exact ritual she saw in her dreams. The doll's in her hands. The disgusting yellow liquid is in front of her, and just as she dips the doll into the bucket, she feels something. It starts in her fingers, a numbness. It spreads. Fast. Arms, legs, chest. Within seconds, Nihal can't move. She collapses, hard, onto the floor. Her vision starts to blur, but she can still see the doorway ahead of her, and that's when she realizes she's not alone. Standing in the doorway is the paralyzed girl. Except she's not paralyzed anymore. She's upright, calm, staring, smiling. And her smile, pure evil. She leans against the doorframe and says, almost playfully, "I'm sorry, but in order for me to walk again, someone had to take the curse from me." She tilts her head, eyes locked on Nihal's frozen body. "That hair in the doll, that was your hair. I cut it while you were sleeping. I had to. Forgive me, but I needed to be free." Nihal lies there, helpless, unable to move, barely able to breathe. This wasn't a dream, it was real. All of it. And the girl? She was never the victim. She was the bait. Then, out of nowhere, boom! A loud smack echoes through the room. The girl crumples to the floor like a rag doll. Behind her stands the one-eyed doorman, the man she thought was creepy, weird, silent, maybe even evil. But he wasn't the villain. He was the one protecting her. In his hand was a blunt object. Whatever it was, he used it to knock the girl out cold. Then, without saying a word, he walked over to the bucket, pulled the cursed doll out, opened it, and yanked the hair from inside. Nihal watched as he burned it. Then, he dipped the doll back into the liquid, and the moment he did, she felt it. The numbness began to lift. Slowly, her fingers twitched, her legs moved. She could breathe again. As soon as she could speak, she looked up at the man, the strange, silent figure who never once said a word since she arrived, and she started to thank him. But he cut her off. He spoke. "Get out," he growled, "and don't ever come back." Nihal's blood ran cold. He could talk. The whole time he could talk. She grabbed her things, barely, no shoes, no jacket, just ran. Out the door, down the street, as far as her legs could take her. She didn't stop until she got home. Now, Nihal lives alone. Her mom remarried. Her dad's gone. And for those 4 days, no one was checking in. If she had died there, no one would have known. Eventually, she confided in one close friend. Told her everything. The friend was stunned and said what most people would say, "We need to tell the police." But Nihal wasn't so sure. "How do you report something like this?" she asked. Still, the friend insisted. "At least let's go back, take photos, prove something's off." So they did. They went back to the address, but when they got there was nothing there. No villa, no gates, no garden, just rubble. Like there had been a house there, maybe 50 years ago, but now it was a decaying skeleton. Abandoned, forgotten. Confused, they asked the neighbors. "Oh, that place," one man said. "No one's lived there in decades. That house has been empty for at least 50 years. But Nihal was adamant. "I was there. I lived in that house for 4 days. It was real." But how could that be? Had she stepped into a place that didn't exist anymore? To this day, she has no explanation for what happened. Her friend, who helped her try to report it, doesn't talk about it, doesn't know what to say. She was there at the beginning when Nihal left for the job, but what happened afterward? There's no record, no witnesses, no evidence. Just 4 missing days and one girl with a story no one can believe. So who or what did she live with for those 4 days? Was it a house filled with jinn? Was it some twisted version of a curse? Whatever it was, it's a question that will likely never be answered. Not by Nihal, not by us, and certainly not by the girl who should have never walked again.